Bienvenidos a nuestro podcast Custodios de la Tierra, donde exploramos con personas profundamente conectadas con su propósito en un fuerte enfoque en la conciencia ambiental y el liderazgo regenerativo. Acá exploramos conversaciones con visionarios y soñadores que desean tener un impacto positivo en el mundo, creando estructuras regenerativas para el éxito. No solo son personas intuitivas y mágicas, sino que traen también las estructuras del futuro posible. Los invitados acá van por la vida en piloto automático hasta que llegan a un punto donde logran superar mandatos predestinados, romper sus jaulas de cristal para vivir valientes y seguros. Es sentirnos tan conectados que sienten pasión e inspiración con todo lo que viven y emprenden. Desde acá vamos a explorar los siguientes temas: cómo sembrar tu vida como un jardín abundante y regenerativo, cómo potenciar tu liderazgo centrado en propósito, cómo gestar y escalar empresas que llamo dragonas y no unicornios, cómo emprender sin quemarte en el intento, y también cómo las empresas con triple impacto y regenerativas son el motor de la nueva economía. Gracias por conectar a otro episodio de Custodios de la Tierra. Okay, welcome to our podcast, which is our first recording in English, which I'm very excited about. Our podcast, which is about leadership, entrepreneurship, and now regeneration. And I'm very happy to invite our first English speaker to this podcast, Menno Lammers. Menno, it's really amazing. I met you at a conference 2 years ago in Colombia, and we started a conversation that has evolved into many more levels since then. But since then, you were really inspiring to me because you brought the idea of regeneration to an industry that is so conservative and traditional, which is the construction industry. And your speech in that conference that we met in was the turning point and has now become a whole strategy for a whole country, and now is being replicated in Latin America. So first of all, it was an amazing moment when I met you here in Construerde in Bogota as the visionary speaker on regeneration. And so anyone who doesn't know Menno is a visionary, a leader of movements. He has created global movements and has over 20 years of experience in the intersection of sustainability, technology, and industry. And you've been such a visionary and pioneer. I started reading your blogs when you started writing about regeneration, and I feel you're really one of those top, global voices on regeneration. So I'm very happy to welcome you to my podcast. We're going to have a cappuccino di Menno here today with you.
Looking forward to drink the cappuccino di Menno. And thank you for having me. It's a great honor to be in the first episode and the first one in English. So, let's get started.
Okay, that's wonderful. Well, I just think the first thing, when I see someone like you really making a mark in the world and having such a global and visionary outlook, the first question I ask myself is what was your early upbringing? Tell us a bit about your background and about those early years that really formed you into really wanting to bring regeneration to the planet right now in this moment of history.
Yeah, it's a good question, and I would love to focus on really my early years because a couple of things I think happened that are really changed how I approach and how I act in the world. So first of all, I'm born in the late 70s. And I'm a fire dragon, and I also have my sun in Aquarius and my moon in Scorpio, for the ones that are familiar with the astrology.
I love astrology, by the way, so I love that. Yes.
So when I'm here to lead, I'm here to change, I'm here to bring the new, and not to take care of your store or your company and just keep it relaxed and organized. So that's the first thing. Secondly, is I was not officially born, but I always say born and raised in Wageningen. Wageningen is in the center of the Netherlands. It's city most famous about signing the World War II peace, and the Wageningse University. So everything about climate, agriculture, forest. So really green, and it's a green place too. So that's also where that natural nature component comes from. In 1984, I lost my hearing on my left side. I had a brain fracture, but I also learned how to navigate, without hearing everything. So I sense the world on another way than people with two ears that are working. So that's another component. And last but not least, I was fascinated by building Lego. My mother taught me how to build Lego. My grandma always bought me Lego. So I love to build cities. I also love to build castles. I'm a big fan of Robin Hood or the Forest Man. When you're into Lego, then you know the theme, castles and Forest Man. And that's also, Lego is a system. So you can build, but you can also deconstruct, and you can build everything with Lego. And of course, it also evolved as a system. But it learned me also, to connect the dots. But also when you don't like it, you can unlock it, and, you can create something else. Mm-hmm. So
that kind of creativity and that kind of exploration was part of your upbringing.
Yes, definitely. That building and exploring and how to create. And I grew up also in a really relaxed environment. Mm-hmm. I could play outside. I played football. I went into the bushes and creating places there, and with my friends. And so, in that sense, it was relaxed. It was not fear. It was really a good environment to grow up, mm-hmm. and have the opportunity to explore, be creative. And my father was working. My mother was at home. But she loved to do a lot of things, so together. So it was fun.
That seems like a really idyllic upbringing. Then you started your world into leadership, and you started doing different things in the world of leadership and recruiting. And then as a consultant over the years with different companies. Tell us a little bit about those kind of leadership, those defining mm-hmm. moments in your leadership journey that you feel have made you who you are today.
Yeah. So I always say it's my journey from recruitment to regeneration. Recruitment was very transactional. My first job was for a company in the stock exchange, and we had to do the number game. And I was always feeling like I understand the number game, but it didn't feel right because it was more about the numbers than about your essence. Mm-hmm. So that's where already that rebel was getting activated. I rolled into the construction industry, and at a certain moment more the built environment, where I was very focused on strategizing and innovation. I had a management team role at a certain moment in a recruitment company, the second company. And then, everything was about change and transformation. Always got challenged by my clients to say, we know there is something happening here, or we want to move on this topic, but we don't know how to make soup. So can you make soup out of it? So I really love to puzzle. I always say I love to build Lego, and connect the dots and making something which is nice. Lego is not always perfect, but you can make beautiful things with it. So that leadership was, the biggest lesson is about leadership, about yourself. And there are different ways to lead. It's not only the number game or very masculine about structure and efficiency. It's also about being empathetic and, listen deep. And, I have only one ear I can listen to. So, I have to turn my face. I have to be present when I listen. So it's listening, and also what is being said in the undercurrent. So the second line of communication is not always easy. I'm just a human. I also have my characteristics, of course, and who I am. But it's also listening to yourself, and that's something also a challenge because we're so rushed in society. But really standing still, listening, and go back to your essence. But we have to keep moving and we have to perform. So that balance, finding that balance in leadership is a beautiful challenge. It can bring you a lot, but it's also challenging sometimes.
And I think in that deep listening that you are an example of, and you stand in coherence because you're listening deeply. You've always listened to what is not there, what could be brought, like the shadow, the undercurrent, seeing the systems, the extractive systems. So how does that guide you into creating PropTech? And then that whole journey, tell us the journey of creating it. And then you listen deeply in order to close it down. Yeah. Tell us that journey.
Yeah, so I was working for an international customer at that time, based in Amsterdam, but the headquarters in London. And they asked me, hey, Menno, there are a lot of things happening in the field, a lot of trends and emerging technologies. We know what to do with property management, but we don't know exactly how to translate those things from outside to inside. So I had a one-on-one mentoring with the managing director. And at a certain moment, we said, can we find a way to do property management 10 times faster, cheaper, and better? So the Google moonshot. I love Earth shots, by the way, which goes times 1,000, but that's maybe for later. But we did a moonshot really from that technology perspective with 5 people in the company from different departments. So they already had that benefit that they learn a lot from each other because they are working on different departments. We created a vision, but then we had to sell it also to the headquarters in London. So the managing director asked me, hey, Menno, can you research what's happening in the UK so we can connect with them? Because if we don't have a buy-in, it's not going to happen. So I reached out to my international network and I found the word PropTech. They were talking about that and they were one of the first. So I registered PropTech.nl and I started PropTechNL. So to connect the tech world and the real estate world, which is 2 different languages. So the tech world is the fast, agile bits, and the real estate industry is the slow, static bricks. Yeah. But they speak different languages. The one is about scaling, the other talking about compliance. So those kind of, how to bring that together was really fascinating. So I started to focus on the Netherlands. But I also, the international activities were coming up, more organizations, PropTech, the UK PropTech Association, PropTech Italy, Colombia PropTech, PropTech Japan, the Australian PropTech Association. So that whole movement was growing. So at a certain moment, I felt like, I don't want to sub-optimize the real estate industry with technology, because when you sub-optimize or when you bring in new technology in an old industry, you're getting an expensive old industry. And I felt like this is not the way. But
when there were 42, you founded or helped to found 42 associations around the world, right?
I didn't found them, but they were founded by others. And then at a certain moment, because I said, okay, we have to do something for good with it.
Yes.
And I started in 2020. I started PropTech for Good. I collaborated with 42 PropTech associations around the world to start with an ESG, so environmental, society, or governance, or sustainable development goals topic, and say, okay, how can we make a positive, good impact with the real estate industry and using technology as a lever? So how can we use technology in the real estate to do something for good? So I started that whole movement, and it was amazing. It was really early stage.
Yeah.
There were people talking about ESG, so it was not new, or the sustainable development goals, but that was the sustainable development goals were launched in 2015.
I was part of that negotiation with the SDGs when I was in the government. Yeah. So I was like also in that global, like, creating those conditions so that more sustainability could be brought to the world. So we were working at different levels on the same thing.
Yes, and that's really beautiful. And of course, now we know.
A decade ago.
Yeah. So I introduced it already in 2017, but I was too early, so I stopped with it. So I was early with also some other things in the industry. So I relaunched and upgraded it with PropTech for Good, with that movement. But I also started to read in 2021 about regeneration. And the first book was Green Swans by John Elkington. And John Elkington is the one who also coined it, the triple bottom line, the triple Ps.
Yeah, he was one of my also key resources when I started thinking about triple impact. Yeah. Environmental, social, and financial.
Yeah. And, he's a great man. I also interviewed him, and we had conversation after I read his book. And but he also recalled the triple Ps in 2018 or 19 in a Harvard business article, to say we have to stop, because the triple P, at the end, everything is about profit. And it was prosperity, but they changed it into profit. And so he said, this is not the way forward. So in his book, he said, we have to go to the 3 Rs, responsible, resilient, and regeneration, because that's something you do or you don't. So we have to skip and don't use the triple bottom line and triple P anymore. And we have to focus on responsible, resilient, and regeneration. So when I started moving there, and I also read the book Regenerative Leadership by Laura Storm and Gals Hudgens, I felt like, okay, things are moving there. But, I also had fun with building the PropTech for Good movement, a global movement. But at a certain moment, questions pop up. What if ESG and impact is not enough? What if cities are a living system instead of the built environment, which is really about separations and buildings and objects? And so at a certain moment, I outgrow PropTech for Good.
Now, when did you feel was that turning point where you said, because also I read the book by Laura Storm. That was also, for me, it was a turning point too. That's when I started thinking about regeneration.
Yeah,
But what was it, that moment where you said, it's PropTech for Good is no longer doing that is no longer coherent with my mission?
Yeah, it's hard to pinpoint that exact moment. I think it was more a process. Because, I also believed what I was doing, and I really felt like, PropTech for Good is a bridge. We need that to move forward, instead of suboptimizing, the industry with technology. Most of the time it was about SaaS, but also at a certain moment, new technologies popped up like 3D printing and those kind of things. But so I felt like, I have to do this. And I'm not a person like, when I feel I have to do it, I also have a feeling at a certain moment I have to stop, or this is enough, and I have to move on. So I believed in it, and people they had their buy-ins in a certain way, like, okay, this is where we have to go. Mm-hmm. But I was already on that new track. And at a certain moment, also things happened in my private life, and there were a lot of things moving, and I thought, okay, maybe I have to make a bigger leap. So I outgrew, PropTech for good. The market at a certain moment, the level playing field was changing, and they were adapting ESG and the SDGs and those kind of things. And of course, we're not there, far from maybe, and now even right now, ESG is pushed back. And mm-hmm. But at that time, I really felt like, okay, I outgrow. I have to ask other questions. I'm not there. People are talking about it, big events, MIPIM, CRETEC, everything. So I felt like, okay, I've done my job. Mm-hmm. So PropTech for good is that. Long live PropTech for good. So it's still there. No, it's not. PropTech for good is not there anymore. But that whole movement, the whole idea and the whole mission and vision is in the industry. But it's time for something new.
I feel that takes so much courage to say, I've outgrown this. I feel some parallels in my own life where I've also outgrown many other moments and callings. And I know, like, I really resonate with that kind of liminal space mm-hmm. that you have known and have lived, which is that kind of, that the end is gone. And that there's a new moment, there's a new beginning, but you're still in that liminal space. Mm-hmm. And I feel when you embark on your tour for regeneration, mm-hmm. that seems like a liminal space, but it's also a becoming, right? Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about that tour for regeneration and what it brought to you.
Yeah, looking back, it was such an amazing time, but also with all the struggles and challenges, because, I decided to make a leap in my life and really, not tweaking some small things or making it more efficient. But I said, okay, radical, I'm going to close the cycle. And I sold my house. And I did that at the time that I was in Bogota. Uh-huh. So in June 2020, I made a financial,
amazing.
So I closed it financially, and then in August I left the house and I started traveling. I went to Portugal, but that it's really about that moment was in some way like harvesting that idea and being happy, and at the other hand I was so sad because I had to let things go. Mm-hmm. My ego, my identity, the things I built up, Menno with a house, Menno, with an international business. I didn't close it at that moment, but I knew I would close it at the end of the year. So I started traveling, and there was a lot of emotions, and I had to let things go, and also, the distance. I was not a big traveler or something. And also not a nomad or a pilgrim, because I felt like, am I becoming a nomad or more a pilgrim, or what is it? But so at the end of the year, I closed down PropTech for good, but I also returned to the Netherlands also to compost. It was literally winter, so I could compost and relax and go internal. And then I went to Valencia, and got my fire a bit back. And then at a certain moment, we connected earlier in 2025 also. And you asked me to become part of Custodians of the Earth as a mentor, so that also gives me energy. And then I went to Japan, which was an amazing experience. Never been in Asia, but Japan was always high on my list. And it's the opposite of the Dutch culture. So really beautiful. I definitely want to go back because it's a fascinating country, and I would love to dive more inside. It really activates something in me. Got back.
I would love to go with you there someday.
We will. we will make a beautiful experience there, and a beautiful inside and everything, and eat delicious food and do craftsmanship and everything. It's really amazing. and but it was really that inner journey. And then we also started talking more intensively, also because I had an idea called Your World, and we met again in Portugal, which was an amazing 2 weeks. And it activated a lot, on different levels in me. It was really that inner journey. Regeneration is not only regenerating, creating conditions to life, outside. It's also regenerating in yourself. Finding your essence, going back to your essence, finding love, love for yourself, love, for someone else, appreciate your family members and your friends. It's regeneration is really that inner and outer journey. And of course, the outer journey can activate you. But at the end, it's like, what's happening inside? And I have a moon in Scorpio, so it's also about depth and feelings. I'm not an ice king or something like that, Mm-hmm. I really feel, and it can be really intense, which is beautiful too,
It's a superpower, I think.
Yeah.
But when we go back to Custodians of the Earth, when I thought of the program and I was designing it, because that's what I do, I love designing transformative journeys for people who are in those liminal moments and want to be reborn. It's like a rebirth.
Yeah.
And they want to elevate their consciousness and see their life as a sacred pilgrimage to their next level. And Custodians of the Earth was that calling. It was about creating a container so people could really regenerate at an inner level, and also regenerate their vision into something that can be a legacy for the planet. And you were one of the first people I thought about as mentors. I thought, who are the global voices, who are talking about this? And so that's how our conversation started, as a mentor. And I really feel that your presence in Custodians of the Earth really activates that visionary in each person. The exercises we do in the program. And you also do a workshop with Lego Serious Play with the participants that is very transformative. So I feel it's very aligned. And from that alignment, you invited me to be part of Your World. And for me, that was on my purpose path, I would love to create a global movement around this. And then I meet you and you're creating it already. So tell us about Your World. How and why is it so important right now?
Yeah, so Your World is really like you are, because you are part of that movement. But it's also is urban regeneration or urban regenerators. So it's a global collective with stewards. So people around the world with different talents, different focus areas that want to make regeneration the new paradigm in the urban environment. And it's really about, on a collaborative way and with a meaningful purpose. So, building capacity with each other and with the outside world, so life can thrive. So, it will be beautiful, when people at a certain moment pass away and compost, that, that movement can just continue, because life is not about me or you, we are part of it. We are nature. But we also have our cycles, and at a certain moment we become a star, but it's beautiful when there's something that you activate and that people feel like, hey, we can move on our own way. So what we're doing with Your World is building capacity in the industry and outside, because, it's not only about, it's not about better buildings. It's about better decisions. and approach it from potential and from whole and from harmony and from balance. So the living principles. So how can you use the living principles in yourself? How can you use the living principles in your organization and in the urban environment? So and why it's important, global, because, everything is connected. So, the water that falls here today, in a week, it can be in China, for example. I don't know if it's literally that fast, but, or, when it's the butterfly effect, when the butterfly in the Amazon is starting to move, things are also moving somewhere else. So when we can learn from each other, but I also want to mention that, regeneration is really about place-based. So it's not about what we see in the PropTech scene. It's like, we have to conquer the world. We have one solution. It should be an IPO, an unicorn. It should be huge. And we spread our monoculture. This is the way we're going to work on the industry, because, Bogota has a different context or different environment than Amsterdam, than South Africa or Tokyo. So you can't copy paste, but you can learn from each other. So it's not about scaling solutions. In that sense, it's about scaling the regenerative approach and the regenerative mindset.
And it's very exciting, because I feel it's the next wave after, beyond sustainability, what's next and what we need. And it's a whole paradigm shift into regeneration. True. that it's about creating that network, that mycelium, as they call it, so people can connect and create nodal pathways and create a whole new neurology. Yes. So we can create the world, regenerate the world together.
Yes.
And it's also not a hierarchical thing. It's a more of a collaborative effort. Everyone is part of a web. True. As you say very wisely. So I feel it's really, really important what you're creating, that I'm honored to be part of. And now tell us, as the last question is, tell us about Regen 101.
Yeah, so Regen 101 is one of the activities that is born out of the movement. So I shared about, you shared about the presentation I did at Construverde in 2024. And now it's part of the strategy of the Colombian Green Building Council. But yeah, that's nice, but you also have to give it hands and feet. So we had the opportunity to co-create a leadership program for Latin American urban leaders to go on that regenerative path called Regen 101. So it's really, the basics, and we have beautiful mentors from all around the world to go through 3 levels. One is regenerative leadership, personal leadership, organizational leadership, and urban leadership. So 3 modules, 3 months. More than 30 hours of learning, the possibility to build your capacity and being part of a global community. So, and that's your world community. So that's really, something we love to see happening, and it's going to start soon. It's one of those bricks of something much bigger, of course. So really looking forward to also to move this forward and to make it a success, and to activate and to build capacity with everyone.
That's amazing. And I'm so happy to co-create this program with you. And we're very happy to be in partnership with the Colombia Green Building Council, which I helped to found many years ago. So it's like, it's full circle, it's all these things that are coming and going. And where your and my stories have woven together in many really amazing moments. And I think I know this program is going to transform many people in the urban environment from which we both come from, So it's just very, very cool to have you here. And we'll be sharing all of the information on those programs around this podcast because we really want to attract the most pioneering minds and people who want to help to co-create that vision of the future with us. So,
yes.
So thank you, Menno. It was a great cappuccino di Menno. And just one final parting message for people who are seeking inspiration and also a way to find you on your socials.
Yeah, so I would say, don't protect and protect the old. Start building the new. Go to your essence and move. Start moving. We have to go out of the chicken coop. Sustainability is very comfortable in a certain way. Of course, I know it has their challenges too, to go to zero, but zero doesn't exist in nature. So it's not about doing less harm. It's also, going into regeneration, so we can buy time with sustainability. Because it's a slow way of dying, but we need the time also to find ways to go on a restorative way and to regeneration. So it's about leaving the chicken coop. So it's in that liminal space. I know it's uncomfortable, but I lived it too, and move ahead and fly like an eagle. So that's so leave the chicken coop, fly like an eagle. Don't protect the old, but let's build the new. The system is cracking. It's on its last legs, and we need you all, and the world needs it. So you can find me on mennolammers.com for my writings and everything, but also you can also find me on LinkedIn and on Instagram. So happy to see you there.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Muchas gracias. Thank you for having me. Really an honor, and looking forward to continue our conversations about regenerative urban futures.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you for connecting to our episode in our Custodians of the Earth podcast. Gracias por conectar a otro episodio de Custodios de la Tierra. Soy Alejandra Torres. Comparte, comenta y generemos comunidad y conexión en torno a este material. Continuemos la conversación. Te invito a seguir conectando tu ser con tu hacer y sembrar tu vida como un jardín abundante.